Hey, folks, it's Tuesday night. It's 9:30. It's time to go behind the hedges. I'm Mitch. This here is Matt. And tonight we're going to be talking to you about a bowl of eggs. So you got anything for these people, Matt?
Man, you said it. It's Tuesday night. It's 9:30. I know not one of y'all out there's got a damn thing to do except watch this show, and you better do it every Tuesday. Before we go in, though, for real, though, help us out. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Why don't y'all come on here and talk some noise? I'm tired of being the one having to run my mouth all the time, although I can do it for everybody. I'd like somebody else to come in here and make some noise. So we send the link out every time we do the show. Click it, join it. It's easy. If you can't figure it out, hit one of us up in the comments, and we'll guide you through. But anyway, bringing a little light, Tuesday night behind the hedges. But we're going to talk about the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, or at least as it applies to SEC football.
How interesting, I think, the state of Mississippi is about to become not only the SEC, but college football at large.
Well, I want to say I think that they're going to become very important to Georgia, to the University of Georgia, particularly.
Go on.
Would you like to know why?
Sure.
Ole Miss and Mississippi State, and we'll talk more about this in a second, are teams that are both capable of beating someone. And by someone, I mean LSU, Bama, Auburn, Texas A&M. Somebody who is just cruising right along could just be, have their whole season just run off into a ditch by one of these programs. We saw Ole Miss last year take Bama to the pillar and the post. They wound up losing to Bama, but go back and look at the score, buddy.
I remember they had them sweating. I don't think they ever led them.
No, but they never backed down either.
That's an honor that was only reserved for God's gift to college football, the Georgia frickin' Bulldogs. But if you're an Alabama fan, you're going to sit there and tell me that versus Ole Miss last year, you didn't have sweat pouring down your forehead? You a damn lie.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were shredding Bama's defense like cheese.
Yeah, and you saw what Mississippi State did to the defending national champions in week one.
Let me point this out because I think this gets lost. It's hindsight's now, but they were trash. You didn't know they were trash. That was the first game. That was the reigning, defending, undefeated for a year, national champions. People were saying that was the greatest offensive team we've ever seen in the history of the sport. Everyone assumed they'd come back hungry and talented, taking a few steps back, but still playing like defending national champions tend to play. And Mike Leach went, nah, not today. And that, I don't know, I can kind of segue into Mississippi State on that point if you want to start with them.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's do it.
Mike Leach. Like, what? This guy, I mean, he's brilliant. He's creative with his blinders on in the air raid. But this guy, go back to Texas Tech. Texas Tech was in the septic tank. They weren't even in the toilet. They were in the septic tank. They weren't even being broadcast on national television unless they were playing Oklahoma.
Right.
Bring him in because they got nowhere else to turn. Why not?
Right.
Mad scientist, air raid. He's going to at least be interesting. He comes in. I think it was like a 7-5 first-year campaign. And then after he got settled in, Texas Tech was the talk of the town, at least if you like to see the ball slung around a million times and a lot of points. They were setting records, scoring gazillion points. I mean, it was like it was air basketball on grass. Goes to Washington State. Again, in the toilet. At the bottom of the Pac-12. First year camp, I think he's like 3-9. It was bad. But kept making the news. People kept talking about it. I mean, he's got this thing about that system he uses and himself. He's kind of a quirky dude where people pay attention to Mike Leach for whatever reason. But the common denominator between those two teams is that they were both awful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Interesting as to why Mississippi State decided to gamble on the mad scientist because they weren't awful. I'm no big fan of Dan Mullen, but he had Mississippi State playing competitive football. You know, they won the Egg Bowl. They beat some teams in the West. You know, they beat Georgia back, what was it, 2010?
2010, yeah.
It's not like they were, you know, they weren't in the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
And they take a chance on Leach, who he's not going to win you a championship. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. He's not going to be the guy to do that. But he will bring a buzz. He will bring some energy. He also does a good job of making a lot of folks mad when he first gets into town and running a lot of folks off.
Yes. His pattern seems to be, this is the Mike Leach train. You're either going to get on board or you're going to get run over. And he always makes people mad and folks, you know, abandon ship. But what happens is there is a consistency to his programs. Once his method sets in, there is a consistency. Right. And now whether or not he's winning championships, he's in several conversations, you know, and both stops before Texas Tech and Washington State, he did take those teams to 11-win seasons at some point. Okay.
He did. And those were teams, Mitch, those were teams that were bad. I mean, they were like Vanderbilt bad. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And after he gets his sea legs under him, pun intended for those of you who know Mike Leach, Mike Leach was Chuck.
The Pirate, yes.
I mean, yeah, he posts good seasons. I think he's the reason teams are taking a chance. They like the buzz, they like the attention, they like his creativity. You know, it's going to bring fans, it's going to put asses in the seats because you want to see your team sling the ball for 1,000,000 yards, right? It's fun. Yeah. He's going to get you. It won't be today, it won't be tomorrow, might not be next week, but he's going to get you. Now he pulled LSU's number. Game one, he beats the defending national champions.
Yeah, in a record-setting fashion.
He's going to get you somewhere. It might be in a back alley. It might be when you're passed out in the bathroom. But he's going to get that win. And those wins, maybe that's enough for teams to go, you know, we ain't got nothing else going on. Might as well bring in this guy, and at least we'll be able to brag against Bama or LSU or Ole Miss every couple of years.
Man, I want to interrupt you here for a second. Tell the people watching. Listen, if you're on Facebook, you're commenting on Facebook. If you don't give StreamYard permission, then your comments will show up as if they are from Facebook user. All right. So I would love to share some of these comments that are rolling in right here, but I'm not sharing comments from Facebook user. So if you want to leave a comment, do it on our YouTube channel or do it on Facebook. But like I said, you got to give Facebook permission to do that. So
I have no idea what he's talking about, folks.
Well, I can see the comments rolling here on my side and
comments.
Yeah. I will be happy to put up comments as long as I can attach them to a person. But I will show you.
We want to get you on the record, right? We want to get your name and face on that page.
I will show you this one. I mean, there's some real gems down here in the comments. So
that little girlfriends are the problem. Always.
Yeah.
What did that mean?
I don't know. Let somebody come on the show and maybe.
I need to be educated as to what that even means and how it applies to Mike Leach and the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Oh, that's that actually. I just got another. That's from KTG. That's from Caleb himself. Caleb, why don't you get on the show, man? We'd love to have you in here chatting it up with us.
Yeah.
But anywho, so we're talking about Mississippi State. We noticed yes, they started off the season like a house on fire. Oh, you how do you get permissions for Facebook? Okay, hold on one second.
Oh, no. That's the one. You ask him. I talk the noise.
You got to go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. All right. I'll put that on the screen here. Hold on one second here.
Push a button. Figure it out. It's 2021, folks.
Okay.
I hope somebody does come in here. I wish a motherfucker would.
So go to that link, StreamYard.com/Facebook, and tell it that you give it permission to put your name on the screen, and then I'll be happy to do that. I'll be happy to put your name on the screen.
Mississippi State, you got their schedule? You want to take a look and see what they're facing?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's I'll pull up their schedule here. Oh boy, let's see. All right. How we looking? Looking good over there. Can you read
Yeah,
that?
looking pretty good. Can you blow it up just a little bit so the dear viewers can see? Okay, there you go. All right. Louisiana Tech win. North Carolina State. I don't know.
I would think it would be a win.
Weren't North Carolina State in pretty bad shape?
Yeah, they were in bad shape in a bad conference too. So
Memphis, didn't Memphis have a little shine on them here lately?
I wonder if that shine has worn off. I'd have to look a little closer, but I would think that this is definitely a winnable game. So I would think that out of these first 3 games, Mississippi State is no worse than 2-1. LSU.
I'm out. It's in Starkville. Again,
Mhm.
folks, I don't think you remember. They went into Death Valley and beat the LSU Tigers. That's tough, no matter who you are, what year it is. And wasn't it a night game? It couldn't have been a night game.
I don't think it was. But
Go
back and look at that.
I'd have to go back and check. It's still, it's a tall task to head into Death Valley and do anything with LSU, and they did. Now LSU's going to come to Starkville. Everybody we've talked to on this channel seems to think LSU's going to come back with a vengeance and be hungry and like ready to just kill them all and let God sort them out. I don't know, man. LSU's got some LSU got some issues coming down the pipe.
Yeah,
distraction.
Oh, look at that. Here's Nick. Is that your boy?
God almighty. Well,
then he goes on to say, "Great show." So, hey, thanks, Nick. We appreciate you, buddy. So, another dang Ducati.
He's California dreaming right now is what he's doing.
Yeah. So, can Mississippi State beat LSU 2 years in a row? I don't know, Matt. But you're all right. LSU has got some issues they got to deal with, and Mississippi State is just one of them, And another one is Ole Miss. So, that's the question: is can LSU fend off both of those teams while also dealing with all the stuff? And we're going to talk in greater detail about that on the LSU broadcast.
We'll get to that in a second. I don't know, man. My gut tells me LSU is going to be worse than a lot of folks think they're going to be. But at the same time, can you do it 2 years in a row? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I think LSU might get that one just because they're mad and because they're bigger than you.
Look at this. Look at this stuff. Look at this. LSU followed by Texas A&M, followed by Alabama.
Okay, Vanderbilt. We're good. Okay.
Yeah, there's Vanderbilt there. All right. Ooh. So let's just say they're 2-1 coming into LSU.
LSU, Texas A&M, and Alabama. That's the upper crust of the West in 3 weeks. Nah.
So the question then becomes not can they beat LSU, but the question is what did they do against those 3 teams? 0-3 or 1-2?
I think 0-3.
Okay, so then now they're 2-1 plus 0-3, so they're 2-4 going into Vanderbilt. They pick up a win there. They're 3-4. You think they can beat Kentucky?
Maybe. That goes to my original point. That's on paper they should not. Kentucky, we talked about it last week or the week before with when we did the Florida show. Kentucky's going to be that team. They're not scared. They're not scared. They're tough. They're big. They're physical. But that's where Mike Leach comes in. That's where Mike Leach comes in and goes, ping, and shivs you in the shower when you ain't looking.
How many of those players are going to be around after that 3-game haul when they go through LSU, Texas A&M, Alabama? I don't know if Mississippi State might have the soul beat out of them by that point. And I think your toss-ups, if Kentucky is a toss-up game, I think it's leaning towards Kentucky by this time.
So I mean, it's leaning towards, but it's not a foregone conclusion. Like, Kentucky could beat a lot of teams. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Will they on the road in Starkville? I don't know. See, Mike Leach, that's another thing. He's going to no-sell it. When you get your ass beat in a gauntlet, like you just said, with LSU, Alabama, and Texas A&M in 3 weeks, a lot. You're right. The spirit of a team will wilt, but Mike Leach, it doesn't register. He's hard. Hardy ho! He's going to keep moving forward like a pirate.
Swing your swords.
He'll no sell it. So I mean, if the team takes that kind of identity, who the hell knows? It's very difficult. This might be the most difficult schedule to like call and make predictions on this early because again, it's Mike Leach. You don't know. I mean, I'm pretty confident that 3-game stretch against the upper crust he's going to lose, but I can't tell you what he's going to do against Kentucky.
So what about against Vanderbilt, Kentucky, and Arkansas? Can he go 2-1?
1-2.
1-2.
He could go 2-1. He could go 1-2. That's a coin toss.
Okay, let's just say 2-1 then. Let's say 2-1, and he's gone 2-1 to start the season, then 0-3. So he's at 2-4, and then he goes 2-1 again. So he's now at 4-5. 4-5 coming out of Arkansas. You got Auburn. I think they beat Auburn next year. I think Auburn is down. I think Auburn is just.
Tell them about your favorite team, Mitch.
I do not. It ain't Auburn, right? So I think Auburn is waiting for some spankings next year, right? So 4-5, Mississippi State comes into Auburn, makes it a 5-5 game. Then they beat up on Tennessee State to go 6-5 and get bowl eligible, and then they got the Egg Bowl to end the season.
I want to say this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And this might segue us into the Rebels. I think the state of Mississippi, more specifically college football in the state of Mississippi, has a chance to become some of the most interesting and entertaining football in the nation between these two teams. The Egg Bowl is a game, if these programs continue to trend like we think they might under Kiffin and Leach, to become that game. It doesn't matter unless you're in the state of Mississippi and it matters to you, then you get all stressed out because it's your rival. But all of the rest of us, whether you're in the SEC, Big Ten, the Pac-12, this is going to be that week when we can all collectively kick our shoes off, crack a cold one, lean back, and just watch insanity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's what this is about to become. Now, they won't be like – I don't think it'll be like national relevance. I don't think there'll be championships on the line. It's just going to be that game where you're like, man, this is going to be fun. This is going to be a fun thing to watch. And it's going to take that kind of identity under these two head coaches.
So I'm looking at this stretch here. Kentucky, Arkansas, and Auburn. Kentucky, Arkansas, and Auburn, back to back to back. I'm going to go ahead and say this. In order to get bowl eligible, and I do believe that should be Mississippi State's goal, is to be bowl eligible, they're going to have to beat 2 of those teams.
The 2 we're looking at now?
2 plus Kentucky. So you got Arkansas, Auburn, and Kentucky.
Arkansas is my feel-good West team. Like I'm going to pull for them unless they're playing us now. Mm-hmm. Just because I like Pittman. They showed me something last year when they played us. We were supposed to run all over them, and they punched us in the face. Instead of getting pissed off about it, I was like, you know what? Good on you. Good on you with this new coach and these players who went through hell the year before that and the year before that being a bottom feeder. Look at you. You know, don't beat us, but, you know, kind of giving them a pat on the head. Go Arkansas. So I don't want to pick Arkansas to lose to Mike Leach, but you're right. He's going to have to beat one of them 3 teams.
2 of them.
2 of them. Who's it going to be?
He's going to need to beat 2 of them.
They're going to beat Auburn? Dude, I'm like Mike Bobo said that Auburn's the best college town in the country.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So how you going to pick against your Tigers?
Well, for me, it's easy. I think Auburn is just not that team. I think that if Mississippi State has to win 2, then one of them will be Auburn. Can they beat Kentucky? Can they beat Arkansas? Yeah, they can. Will they? That's the question, right? What was the other team up at the top? There was another team up at the top. Who was it right after NC State? Who was that third team? Memphis?
Yeah, Memphis.
Yeah. So if they go 3-0 in their first 3 games, then they don't have to beat 2 of those teams. I just don't think they will go 3-0, and I think they'll go 2-1.
Wind up in the Egg Bowl against a team.
Mm-hmm.
got me a little concerned. Before we move on to Ole Miss, though, I want to segue into that now, since we touched on the Egg Bowl and how interesting Mississippi's about to get, I think. Before we go there, would you like to enlighten our viewers how many rushing yards average per game Mississippi State's top rusher had?
Their top rusher was at he had 312 yards on the season, so that's 31 yards per game.
Whoo! So you know what you're dealing with, guys. It's not going to be a mystery. When Mike Leach train comes to town, they are going to sling the ball.
Yeah, I want to draw a comparison too for Georgia fans, particularly. They'll understand. He's Paul Johnson. Mike Leach is Paul Johnson.
Well, wait a minute now. Go ahead, but wait a minute.
I mean, you don't see that offense often enough to that you feel like you have to really focus on it. It's a gimmick, right? It's a sideshow. It's all those kinds of things, right? Paul Johnson, of course, runs the ball 99% of the time, and Leach obviously throws it. He's not throwing the ball down the field, though. That was the thing that was sort of surprising to us. It's not like he's attacking the end zone every time, but he's just.
In the Georgia game, they were shredding it. They were shredding us down the field, and then once the field became compacted and it was time to score a touchdown, all of a sudden, whoops!
It was harder for them to do that.
Can't do it.
Right. So, on the other hand, talking about scoring points, well, now we're talking about Ole Miss. The Land Sharks, baby.
They're going to drag that girl around. She's going to hang on to the buoy and not going to be able to hold on because she's going to get dragged under the water, that girl being most of the teams in the West. Dude, I'm worried about this. I knew when they played Florida and I was like, man, they're moving the ball a lot. And then I saw 600 plus yards. I was like, wait a minute. Oh, yes? Lane Kiffin, this fat, like this quickly? Like now you're doing this? If he ever puts together a defense in Oxford, brother, they're going to make some noise. I don't know how loud it'll be, but it's going to be noisy.
Well, here, I'm trying to pull up something here. All right, so I just Googled this just to see what it was. Now, last year they went 5-5. They were 4-5 in the SEC, and then they won their bowl game. They averaged. Hold on a second here.
A lot. Whatever you're going to say, it's a lot.
Come on, pull it up.
Total offense, they were third, above Bama. I looked it up on the NCAA website. Third.
Scoring. Okay, so they averaged 39.2 points per game. They scored 39 points per game. They gave up 38 points per game.
There's the rub.
Yes. So you said that they were what we said, third in scoring?
When I was looking up offensive statistics for Ole Miss the other day on the NCAA website, they were third for total offense. Behind Kent State and I think Air Force. I may be wrong on those teams. Don't fact. I'm just those lesser teams that play in those lesser leagues, and I don't mean lesser bad. They're playing against high school kids who, are chemistry majors. Outside of those schools, it was Ole Miss, followed by Bama. And Bama has been heralded as the new greatest offense we've ever seen in the history of football. There were metrics that Ole Miss was ahead of them in offensively.
Yeah. And we talked about this too. Do you judge an offense by how many yards they gain or by how many points they score? And the thing is like, and the defenses goes by the same way, how many yards you allow or how many points you allow, so either way you slice it, their scoring offense was like third, their yardage offense was like, they were still top 10. They were like number 7.
They were top 10 in lots of categories offensively. I think one of the lower ones, I don't remember which metric it was, they were like still in the top 15.
Now the problem was defensively, there were 128 teams in FBS football last year, 128 teams, and they were 118th out of 128 in points allowed and around that in yards allowed. So, diametrically opposed, they're night and day. Their offense is all that, and their defense is all not that. Right?
He fixes that.
Right.
Watch out, man. Kiffin's gone through his own journey. He's been not everybody's favorite coach. I wish one of the Tennessee guys was here to
Yeah, they love him.
help us revisit that time of their life. But the guy knows what he's doing, obviously, and if he can figure this defense out and the offense continues to grow.
Let me say this: Kiffin never had a problem with scoring points. Like, that's always been his thing. Kiffin knows how to do that part of the game very, very well. He's shown that everywhere he's been, right? And after his latest little foray in big boy football, before he got sent to, where was he at? Florida Atlantic, Florida International, something like that. He was down there in Florida, one of the
Florida International when he got when he left Alabama.
Yeah. So when he went down there, I thought to myself, boy, I sure do hope that he gets another opportunity to play, to show what he can do in the big boy leagues, And when I heard that Ole Miss was getting him, I thought, okay, this will be interesting. But and so far it has played out the way that I kind of thought it would. Like, I thought he would come in, score a bunch of points, give up a bunch of points, and that's kind of what has happened. But I'll tell you, you said it. Don't mess around and let Lane Kiffin get a defense.
Don't do it.
Right now he's at the point where it's like, he's just, all he's asking his guys to do is just get him a stop. Get me one stop a game. If you get me one stop, we'll outscore these fools. You know what I'm saying? That's what he's doing right now. Let me get one stop. What if he gets a defense that can get him 3 stops?
I don't want to hear about it.
And
the good thing is, typically we won't have to deal with that as Georgia fans unless he gets to Atlanta. I don't want to deal with that in Atlanta because you're basically dealing with another Alabama. How many Alabamas in the world do we need? I don't need another one wearing different colors. You know what I'm saying? I also don't want him to be. He's not a disciple, but if he's the first one to beat Saban in the regular season, you know how people are going to be. They're going to pile on and say, "Oh, Kiffin's the first Saban disciple," even though he wasn't a disciple. I don't want him to get that feather in his cap that belongs to Kirby. Kirby is Brutus to Saban's Caesar. It would be poetic. It would be perfect. But I can see it being ruined by, Lane Kiffin coming in there and pulling a fast one.
So I got to tell you this. Honesty compels me to report. When I was doing a little homework on Ole Miss, I went ahead and looked at their 24/7 their incoming recruits. 8 of their top 10 highest rated players. 8 of their top 10 highest rated players coming in this class are defensive players. So I ain't saying they're there yet. I'm just saying that it would appear that Lane Kiffin, the Lane train, it would appear that he is well aware of what the situation is, and he is doing his best to try to rectify it. Right. So again, they ain't there yet. But if you told me that Lane Kiffin was going to sign, 80% of his best recruits were going to be defensive recruits, I'd say, give him a couple years. Give him a couple years, man. They're going to be something,
No, yeah. Both of these teams we've talked about are going to be something. Here's what I hope that something is. I hope that the state of Mississippi produces 2 SEC teams that are assassins.
Mm-hmm.
And what do I mean by that? I mean, I want them to get to a point where they start assassinating at times they're not supposed to, the Bamas, the LSUs, the Auburns, and mathematically making it so that we draw, Arkansas and Atlanta or Mississippi State and Atlanta. I'm much, that's just me being selfish. I would love to see some of those upper crust programs stub their toe against these Mississippi schools who you now cannot sleep on anymore.
Right.
Really sleep on. I mean, Hugh Freeze had them playing well at Ole Miss, and Dan Mullen had them competitive at Mississippi State, but you weren't really sweating them. Ole Miss, you can definitely start to sweat if he turns that defense around, and Mike Leach is the wild card. I'm hoping both of them have daggers for the Bamas and the LSUs of the world.
So let's take a look at that schedule then. Here's this Ole Miss's schedule for 2021. They're going to start off with Louisville, who very similar team to like what was the team, the NC State that Mississippi State's playing. Again, not a very good team coming from not a very good conference.
They had a rough time, yeah.
All right, so I will expect Ole Miss to go ahead and tee it off against Louisville. Then they got Austin Peay and Tulane. So I think 3-0. Now I like this. I like that they start their SEC slate with Bama. I like this. This is a Bama team that just lost Najee Harris, Mac Jones, Devontae Smith, and all those kids.
Just stop
to the NFL.
Stop.
And you saw what Ole Miss was able to do with Alabama last year when they had those guys. Do you think this is the one? Is this the one?
Not in Tuscaloosa, no.
Okay.
Bryce Young's a stud. Listen, it's Bama. The cliche is true. They don't rebuild, they reload. They got guys back there ready to pick up where Najee left off. They got guys back there ready to pick up where Smith and did Waddle leave? Waddle's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mechie's there. They got guys ready.
Yeah.
The offensive line's not going to see any drop off. Bama's going to be Bama. No, this is not the year. Again, the defense from Mississippi, you won't see the returns on the recruiting investment this year. That defense won't be ready to slow that down. There's still too much of a talent gap between Saban's offense and Kiffin's defense for now.
Okay. So of the 6 teams you see on the screen right here, if Bama is a definite loss, can you see any other definite losses?
Not definite, although Arkansas is I don't know. I don't know if Arkansas is going to have the horses to stop them. That's the thing. I don't think Arkansas can stop them. I don't know that Mississippi State can stop Arkansas. But then it just comes down to who wins the coin, who gets that stop, who gets that one heroic stop.
Okay. So if there is a question mark, then you would say Arkansas, right? So worst case scenario out of these 6 is Ole Miss goes 4-2, and best case they go 5-1.
I think, and I'm going to say 5-1. We ain't even going to mention Tennessee because Tennessee is in the septic tank.
All right. So let's just say 5-1 then, for the sake of argument. 5-1. Then they have LSU, Auburn, Liberty. Speaking of Hugh Freeze, Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, and Mississippi State. All right. What are the teams on this list right here, that are definitely losses?
Definitely losses. And A&M's got to come to Oxford. 12th man won't be present. Shit, man, I don't think I can give you a guarantee. Now I've got some teams that I would lean towards to beat them.
Okay, but let me let's answer the question like this: Who is a definite loss?
Auburn. It's in Auburn. We've seen it before. Auburn is the luckiest team, and they are reaping the benefits of being in the middle of the voodoo belt. You can talk all the voodoo you want about LSU. Auburn's really the one who comes up with it. LSU just beats their ass. Auburn has like pentagrams and like bone chimes hanging up in Jordan hair. Auburn's the one. Auburn will get them in Auburn.
Okay, so let me ask you now the other side of the coin. How many teams on this list are definite wins for Ole Miss? Definite wins, no question.
Liberty, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State.
So 3 definite wins, 1 definite loss. So that's 3-1 with 2 undecided.
And I'll let you. What do you think? I'm gonna flip it to you.
I'll say best case scenario 5-1, worst case scenario 3-3.
Who are your guaranteed losses on this little list we're looking at here?
I think Ole Miss loses to
guaranteed
Texas A&M. I like you make a compelling argument for Auburn. It's hard for me to say Auburn. I see definitely 2 losses. I won't say
Texas A&M is a guaranteed win.
I think Texas A&M will beat Ole Miss. Yes.
Okay. Well, there you heard it, folks.
I see 2 definite losses out of these 6. one of which will be to Texas A&M. The other one could be to LSU or Auburn or Liberty even, but one of them will definitely be to Texas A&M.
I think the losses are at Auburn, Mississippi State.
So what that means is I see
probably, you know what, probably Texas A&M. You could see 3 losses in this stretch.
So what that tells me
we're not
is
going to see defensive dividends this year.
I see Ole Miss going 9-3. They're going to lose one of their first 6.
Basically, you're saying Ole Miss is the Florida of the West.
Can you unpack that a little bit?
I'm willing to put the little bit of money I have in my wallet that Florida will go 9-3.
Okay, but being the Florida of the
West. If you wanted to press me, I'd say 8-4 because I think Kentucky's going to sneak up on them. Either Kentucky or Missouri. Different show. We've already talked about that.
Okay,
that's what I meant about Ole Miss. You're saying they're going to go 9-3, so they're that team that's not bad, competitive. Could be better, could be worse. That's what I mean. They're Florida. They're comfortable probably coming in second, could come in third.
They'll make a bowl. They make a good bowl. They won't. They won't make
last week or last week we did this show, not last week, week before. The margin between second and third might be razor thin, might be 1 game. You're telling me they're the Florida of the West?
I mean, they might have the same record as Florida. I'm thinking that, gosh, I don't know, Matt. That doesn't leave a lot of room, If Bama goes undefeated, of course, and finishes first in the West. A&M loses a game to Bama, and who else is like LSU and Auburn? Are those the 2 teams that are going to vie for that 3rd spot, or is Ole Miss one of the teams that's going to vie for that 3rd spot? Are they See, I would argue that Ole Miss is the Kentucky / Missouri of the West. In other words, the top 2 teams in the West to me are Bama and A&M on account of Saban and Fisher. Okay. I don't think that LSU is ready to be in that tier yet because of the problems that they are having, and Auburn is they got some issues. Okay. So maybe the tier in the East that consists of Missouri and Kentucky, that middle tier, maybe that tier in the West is actually kind of a fatter tier. I see LSU in that tier. I see Ole Miss in that tier. I see Arkansas and Mississippi State in the bottom tier. And I think I see Auburn in that tier as well, that bottom tier. So if Ole Miss can beat Auburn and LSU, then I think there's an argument for them being in that top tier with Bama and Texas A&M, depending on how their games go with them. I mean, they could lose both those games, but be in competitive losses, and I would still think they would belong to that tier. But if both those teams blow them out, then clearly there's a delineation. You know what I'm saying?
What do they do? So you're picking a guaranteed win for Ole Miss is Mississippi State?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So in the state of Mississippi, which is the topic of the evening, Ole Miss is going to be top dog this year.
Right. This year. And I think it has something to do with they already let me use this term phrase. They already have a leg up. You remember that? The kid that peed on the goalpost, they already have a leg up. Yes. So speaking of egg bowls.
That was like that's up there with the golden shoe. That's up there with the shoe penalty. Like maybe that. Yeah, no, that's like the same tier as the shoe penalty. Yeah, just stupid.
That is the game that cost Matt Luke his job, and then Matt Luke wound up at Georgia. He's Georgia's offensive line coach now. That Sam Pittman is at Arkansas. So funny the way the world turns, right? Yeah. So anyhow, I do think that Ole Miss currently has that leg up. I think that Mike Leach will eventually get on to punching terms with Lane Kiffin. As soon as he gets all his cancer cut out, you know what I'm saying? As soon as he gets all those kids run off the team. That's his pattern. He does it everywhere he goes. And you saw that last year. The season started. Everybody was super happy. Oh, my God, we just dropped 1,000,000 points and 1,000,000 yards on the defending national champion. And then, you know what happened? They just disappeared. You know what I mean?
Cockroaches scurrying off into the darkness. Yeah.
And Kentucky beat those boys. What was it? 24-2? Was it 24-2? They beat them. So that's why I'm thinking, man. You talk about can they beat Kentucky? Can Mississippi State beat Kentucky? I don't know, Matt. I think Kentucky might be another level up. Anywho, I don't want to transition back to Mississippi State. I'm just saying I think Ole Miss
has got the advantage where the two teams currently stand.
Mm-hmm.
I will agree. I am not. I'm wary of State. I'm getting a little anxious about Ole Miss. If they continue to grow, it's not going to be fun to play them if you're in the West, and possibly if you are the representative from the East, which is strange because we're used to them not being really a factor.
So I think what I'm realizing now is that Mississippi State is the team that can beat somebody, but will also lose to somebody, meaning they might drop a game to Tennessee. You know what I'm saying? They might drop. You know what I'm saying? They might lose a game that they're like, why did you lose that game? Why did you lose to Kentucky?
I just want them to be assassins.
Right.
I don't want them to be powerhouses. Right. I want you to go in there and win that game against LSU. You ain't supposed to win like you did last year and set LSU on a downward spiral. I want you to go
Ole Miss
one in against Bama or A&M. That's what I'm saying. That's what I want them to do.
So the question is Ole Miss in year 2 of Lane Kiffin, is Ole Miss capable of losing to a team that they should not lose to?
It's going to be tough because of that offense.
Mm-hmm.
If you're scoring points, I think that question becomes more difficult to answer when you're going to get them sixes.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to get them. He's going to score points. They're going to do it. It's just the way it is. Teams that you're not supposed to, teams you're not supposed to lose to. That would be like Georgia losing to South Carolina at Georgia 2 years ago. Because we didn't have an offense. We didn't have an offense that could threaten anybody, anywhere, anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Kiffin can do the opposite. So, okay. All right, big bad. Okay, Memphis, you came out and you got hot, and we screwed up and gave you 21 points in the first quarter. We can make that up in the second quarter. Now we're tied.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, 14 more in the third. It's a different. I don't know. I don't see Kiffin dropping those little piddly games to the Tennessees and the Memphises because they're going to score points.
You know who could do it? Pittman.
Well, yeah, Pittman's Arkansas is my feel-good team. I think Arkansas should have won more games last year than they did. If they continue to grow, that's going to be that's definitely to me the Missouri, Kentucky of the West.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Arkansas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who do you have at the bottom of the West?
State, who we're talking about tonight. Based on last year's results, you kind of have to nudge Ole Miss that way. We're only giving them this much respect because of what they're able to accomplish on one side of the ball. Mm-hmm. And what we're projecting they might do if he improves that defense. That might not happen. If it doesn't, and we're sitting here just wrong, then the state of Mississippi is still in the toilet. I'm going to say I think Auburn's up to their waist. I don't think they're up to their neck like you think they are. I think they're up to their waist in shit, though. I do. We'll see what happens with Auburn. Again, Auburn's not that team. It's not creativity. It's not know-how. It's just blind luck. Auburn wins games because a Nick Saban coached Alabama team tries to kick a field goal. Nobody covers the guy catching it in the end zone. How many times have you ever seen that in your life? They win games because of the prayer at Jordan Hare. How many times have you ever seen that in your life? How many times have you seen it since?
Yeah.
You know, they win a national championship because they got a guy who can fall down and get 6 yards.
Right.
It's just Auburn. They're the riverboat gambler.
It's not a matter of how many times you've seen it. It's a matter that every time you've seen it, it has been Auburn. You know,
Auburn. They get the calls from the refs. Everybody talks about that. Whenever it goes bad, you blame the refs. We blame the Alabama games on refs. Everybody does that shit. But with Auburn, you have to step back and go like, no, really, really, you screwed that up and gave Auburn a win.
Yeah.
The ball bounces their way. Everybody has those moments. Auburn always has those moments. And you're just conditioned.
So I'm thinking we could probably cut it off a little shorter than an hour tonight. But I want to ask you last thoughts. Pick a record for Mississippi State and for Ole Miss. Record for each team.
I will say 9-3 for Ole Miss. I will say 5-7 for State.
Wow. Okay. All right. Okay. I'll take 6-6 for State. I think they will get bowl eligible, and I'm going to go 8-4.
Okay.
So
that's not a variance there. I think my picks and your picks put for the West. That puts them in the middle, or at least right above the bottom. That's the thing, though. The bottom, those tiers don't apply in the West like they apply with us. Right. They don't have a Vanderbilt. They don't have a Tennessee. They don't have a Carolina. They just don't. Right. The West, it's the SEC West's world, and everybody else is living in it. So their bottom feeder could whoop your ass at your house on a day where you're not having the best day.
So maybe there's only 2 tiers in the West.
I think in the West it's national championship contenders and teams who can compete with anybody.
And bowl eligible.
Bowl eligible, and then teams that are going to make a run at the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
A&M, LSU. Well, I don't know. I think it's A&M and Bama this year. For those teams are in the discussion. Everybody else is going to make a bowl game and probably win it if they make it. As we're at the East, Carolina, Vanderbilt, and Tennessee are, what are they going to do? We've already talked about it. Nothing.
Yeah. I think that the best case scenario for any one of those 3 teams you just mentioned, the best case scenario is the best one of those teams might be bowl eligible.
500, hit 500.
Okay.
So that's the Mississippi show. I'm excited. That's going to be a game I circled, the Egg Bowl. I'm going to be like, you know what? I don't have a dog in this fight. No pun intended. Let me make a little chow. Let me get some cold beers. I'm going to sit back, relax, and just watch these 2 teams light it up.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's going to become because we don't care, but they care. That's a bitter rivalry. You're going to see some crazy shit in that game. And then with these offensive-minded coaches, I mean, it could become a fireworks show.
All right, I'll ask you this then: if I set the line at 90 points combined between the 2 teams for the Egg Bowl, 90 points, will you take over 90 or under 90?
Let me watch a little bit of the season. Right now, I'll take the under.
I'm taking over.
You want to take the over? You think they're going to crack 100 points?
No, I think they're going to crack 90 points. but a 49-45 game sounds like something that absolutely could happen. So, it's not outside the realm of possibilities or probabilities.
Mike Leach lives there, man. I think when he was at Texas Tech, there were 100-point games. I believe there were. I believe that's why a lot of people were talking about, like, oh, my God. Who was it they played? Who was it he played? It was like 2 off. It was like Oklahoma State and Texas Tech. I think they lit it up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's the world he lives in, and he would no-sell it. To me and you, that's like, oh, God, that's fun. To him, that's just Tuesday.
Right. Or Saturday. All right, dude. Well, hey, man, this has been Funner than I thought it would be, to be completely honest with you.
And that is what you just said. Funner than I thought it was going to be. That's going to be Mississippi college football, I think, for a few years to come.
Yeah. So again, let me reiterate what Matt started the show with. Go ahead and go to YouTube and like our channel, subscribe to our channel, leave us some comments. And again, if you attach your name,
can come in here. If you scared, say you scared. It's Tuesday. I know ain't none of you got nothing to do. You're probably not even watching now, but you can watch later, as you should. Come in here and get you some.
Yeah, and give us a shout. We'd love to chat with you. We want to hear how you disagree with us.
Being real, I would like some random Arkansas fan to just bust in and educate me.
Yeah, no kidding. That would be fun. But anyway, folks, we will do this again next Tuesday. Hopefully.
Who are we gonna do? We don't have anybody to pick the team. This Ole Miss was picked by the Florida guys 2 weeks ago. So we've now got the state of Mississippi covered from our perspective. Who's next? We got a lot we got to say.
Well, we still have Missouri in the East. We still have Kentucky in the East. We still have LSU and Texas A&M. Is that all? And Bama.
Have we done Auburn? We did Auburn. Yeah, we did Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Their name came up a lot this show. It's a team we've been talking about a lot here on the show consistently and amongst ourselves, not on the show. We need to talk about them Kentucky Wildcats.
Okay.
Because I think there's more to talk about than a lot of folks realize.
Okay. Should we do Kentucky and Missouri at the same time?
Why not? We think they're in the same tier. Let's go ahead and do another double Oreo, another double like we did tonight, and tackle the teams we ain't necessarily scared of, but we ain't really trying to sleep on these.
Sleep with one eye open.
Yeah, that's the thing. You got to watch your back because these teams, if you don't bring it, they'll bring it.
Okay.
So Kentucky gutted us and served us on a platter to Florida.
Stay tuned for next week. We're going to talk about Missouri and Kentucky. All right, Matt, I'm out. Been fun. We'll see you next weekend or next Tuesday.
Peace.
Later.